Just do it. Make your dreams come true. So just do it.
That's right.
Welcome to Sales Funnel Radio, where you'll learn marketing strategies to grow your online business using today's best internet sales funnels. And now, here's your host, Steve Larsen.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, that was my little 3-year-old. She's obsessed with that Shia LaBeouf thing where he's like, just do it. Make your dreams come true, so just... She's like quoting it. And she's walking around and she says it all the time. It's adorable. It's hilarious. And there's this part of me that's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. She's like, I've never had any success without becoming a monomaniac about something, just really obsessing, being... all about massive volume in whatever the thing is that I'm going for. Whether it's a physical goal, financial, personal development, spiritual, anything. Like monomaniac, these sprints of like really high intensity focus is how I've done what I've done. And so when I see my little girl do that, I'm like, yay, she's got it. But then there's the other side of it. There's this other side of the coin that I don't think is talked about as much. Gary Vee, who was at the viral video launch a little bit ago, and he talked about it. He was on stage for a solid 2 hours, seemed like, and he did a great job. Obviously, it's Gary Vee. But someone asked him, I don't remember exactly what they said, but the question had to do with some kind of life balance, and that's a question a lot of people ask, and it's a good question to be asking for sure. I do get a little surprised at how many people ask it. I guess how frequently it gets asked. But I remember Gary Vee said, like, look, something to the effect of, you don't want to wake up when you're 37 years old and find out that what you've been doing the last 15 years you hate. The thing that you've built something that you don't want to be a part of. Or you've built something that is that literally has sucked so much of your time in your life away that you really don't have time to live outside of your business. And it's been kind of an interesting experience going back and forth on that. Like, there's been these moments where, I've worked my butt off for the last 5 years. Specifically the last 5 years. Really, it's been like 8. But really the last 5 years has been just high pressure sprinting, very, very, very little rest. Just go, 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 go. And I get that a lot from my dad. My dad was a extremely successful businessman. He's actually a software architect. He was an executive at IBM. He took on huge roles over at American Express. He was all over the place and set a lot of industry standards for the software world. And my dad's the man. And I learned how to work because of him, and specifically because of yard work and the way he interacted with me on that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I talk a lot about that in the early episodes of this show. Anyway, it was a little bit ago. I was working like crazy, just doing tons of stuff, working. And one morning I was leaving, and I was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna go to work." And my little girls had just asked, like, "Hey, I'd love," they were saying, "Are we gonna go to the park?" And I was like, "No, I gotta go to work." And my little 2-year-old like sucked to my leg and was like looking up at me with like the biggest, saddest puppy dog eyes I've ever seen. and I was like, oh crap, they kind of rips your heart out a little. Like, gosh, dang it, like, am I doing this for the right reasons, or is it my own? I don't know. I'm really aggressive. I'm extremely ambitious, obviously, and chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, you are also. Usually podcast listeners are go-getters, and so anyway, and so the whole point of this podcast, I've had a lot of things in my mind lately for how I want to make sure that I'm crafting my life. I recently have had the experience. I'm not sure if you guys read the book The One Thing by Gary Keller. The One Thing by Gary Keller. Fascinating book. I looked at that book like many entrepreneurs and said, yeah, but everyone else has to do just one thing. I can do like 15, and I haven't really taken it that seriously. But there's been a few experiences over the last 2 weeks, though, where I've been going through it, and I've actually had a chance to get to know Don Hobbs, who runs the Gary Keller One Thing events. And he's been coaching me through a lot of this kind of stuff. And he's been teaching me, like, Steven, man, like, what's your one thing? What's the thing out in the future? And I'm like, gosh, I don't know. Like, I almost got offended by it at first. I was like, I don't know. Like, when I was running the 2-mile race in the Army, right? The 2-mile, you're going as fast as you can for 2 miles. I never did it by looking at the finish line. I always did it by looking 3 steps ahead of me. And that's how I've lived my life, where I just keep heads down and I just sprint and I just go towards stuff, build the funnel, get the thing done, boom, 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 and just go, 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 go. And it's good because you get a crap load of stuff done, stuff that takes other people, way too long. They think about stuff too much rather than just act and get something out there and fix it as it's falling. You know what I mean? Like, it's so anyway. And he was asking, like, hey, what's your one thing? What's your one thing? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't honestly know what my someday goals are, what my one thing goal is. My thing's way out in the future. Like, whenever people say, like, where do you think you'll be in 10 years? I'm like, I have no idea. And that's what I said to him when he and I were chatting. And it almost got a little bit heated. He was like, you got to know what your thing is. I was like, I don't know what my thing is. I'm really good at short-term sprints, getting a ton of awesome stuff done that rocks. And I told him, I was like, look, I really do. And I've lived my life this way for especially the last 5 years. Actually, probably most of my life. I don't plan more than 6 months in advance because it's guessing. That's what I've always felt. And my whole mentality towards that has started shifting and changing. And I've started thinking through, like, okay, like, what is it that I really want? I know how to hustle. I know how to crush it. But when my little girl's running up to me and saying, like, look, Dad, take me to the park, it starts to tug on the heartstrings a little bit. It's easier to charge high ticket for my time when you start having those kinds of life events happen to you. Like, hey, here's a kid, hey, whatever. And you kind of check yourself just a little bit. And so I've been kind of going through that lately and thinking through a little bit more. I don't know. I think that living a balanced life is a facade. I still do. I don't know that a lot of people ask me this type of question, which is the other reason why I'm bringing it up on this podcast. I get this question frequently, and how do you balance everything? I was like, well, I don't try to. I've never found success by being balanced. Like, are you kidding me? An Olympian is an Olympian because they train their freaking butt off, and that's all they do for decades. You know what I mean? Like, I don't try to live a balanced life. I don't try to, like, I work hard. I don't sleep that much. I don't, and I had this screeching realization, though, about 2 weeks ago, and I've been trying to figure out how to say this on the podcast. I've had the screeching realization, like, why? Like, the ability to work this freaking hard is amazing. I love it. I learned it from my dad. I love working where I do. Emotionally scratches a lot of itches. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing. But I guess that'd be the question that I pose back to everyone who's listening. I'm just trying to pass the. I don't totally know the answer yet. I'm still trying to figure that out, and I actually feel like that answer will be something that's discovered. It's like a discovered answer mixed with intention, and I'll find it. I'm not exactly sure what that 10-year goal is, the 20-year goal is. Like, I have no idea. The thing that I know that I do want to do is I want to keep teaching people how to make money. I'm very, very interested in philanthropy. I really, really want to go do a lot of third world stuff. I look at money as a tool. It's a means to an end. I don't totally know what that end is, though. I just kind of have an idea of what those things are. And it was going through more of Gary Keller's One Thing book, talking to Don Hobbs, Russell, talking to Dave Woodward. I mean, all like it's been very eye-opening to be like, okay, shoot short term for these things, but like make sure it's actually affecting the one thing you're trying to go for. Make sure it's actually, and I've never really been that huge into planning ever. I lived the last 5 years of my life going, you know what? I want to go for that. And then I'd get it because that's who I am and what I do. I take my target and I destroy it. Like that's my whole mentality. That's my internal persona is whatever the obstacle is, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to go to the left of it. I can go to the right of it. I'll go above it or below it, or I can blow the crap straight through it. And that's kind of like, that's my warrior mentality. That's like, get out of my way. This is who I am and what I do. Don't try and stop me. My being is built on movement. When I'm forced to sit still for too long, I feel like I'm like kind of like entering hell a little bit. Like, I don't mean just like sitting, but like if I feel like there's a lack of movement, it really messes with my head, and it really messes with my being in general. And so I'm real good at those sprints. I'm real good at those, and I'm not trying to just focus on me with this episode today. I hope that you understand the why. Like, what is it that you're actually pushing for? Money's great. Not going to take it with you. You know, what's the impact? And obviously the impact that you can have is greatly increased by the amount of money you do have, you know, which is how I look at all this game. I want to learn it to make a lot of money, to, you know, for the means, there's a means to an end, which is I really, really want to do a lot of philanthropy stuff. I don't totally know what that is. I know that I'll figure it out when I get there, and that's kind of how I've lived my life, but I do want to have a little bit more long-term direction, and I hope that you're doing the same. If you haven't read that book, I seriously recommend it. It has been an interesting exercise. And what's been funny, it's been hard to actually answer the questions, Anyway, so I always get kind of frustrated when people are like, and I actually think I did an episode about this a while ago. I was like, how do you balance everything? It's like, I really don't think that there's such a thing as balance. Like, balance compared to what? Who is it? It was Dan Sullivan. I think it was Dan Sullivan. He talked about, like, if you want to feel really bad about yourself, make sure you compare yourself to some ideals, because you'll never reach them. They're a facade. They're undefinable, right? If you compare yourself and I don't know what you're trying to do, compare it to pop culture, that would suck, because pop culture changes momently. Right? Every hour there's a new thing, there's a new style, a new fad, a new this, a new that. So if you want to feel really crappy about yourself, compare yourself to an ideal, right? And that's been part of my fear, is I don't want to compare myself to some idealistic thing that's out there. That's been my fear with setting a one thing goal, but I'm realizing it's a false belief of my own, right? So what Dan Sullivan says is, look, rather than gain your sense of self-worth by comparing yourself to an ideal, he says, compare yourself to where you've been. Compare you to you rather than you to some ideal, because ideals change and you'll never actually reach it because they change. It's undefinable. All right, so he's like, look back and figure out where it is that you've been and where you're going. And anyway, it's kind of interesting. You got on one side a guy like Tim Ferriss, right? And Tim Ferriss boasts a 4-hour work week, which I'm sure he's so popular now. I bet that's not true anymore. But for that business, though, maybe it is that business that book is about. The 4-hour work week. 4-hour work week, right? He sat back and he said, what's the one thing I can do that when I do that, it makes all the other tasks irrelevant, right? That's how he approached it. That's one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum is like Gary Vee style, where it's like sprint, go, 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 rah. It's like, oh my gosh, hustle till you bleed, hustle till you can't, and honestly, like, I appreciate the hustle. I can do the hustle, but the hustle sucks. The hustle is not a sustainable strategy, right? Like, I believe that you need to have hustle. Especially when you're building your business for the first time, you're building funnels in the value ladder, you're trying to figure out what offers convert. You better be hustling, man. That is life-changing. That is the potential for generational wealth. You better be hustling towards that. That's my mentality. It's like, man, you don't like what you're doing in life? Then freaking do something about it. And you run at it. You sprint at it. Don't try and save a little for later in case you got to run back. Give it all in the sprint. It's the only way I've ever found to actually get stuff out and built and done. And like, I'm good at that. I'm very good at that. And that's the thing. And then there's this other romantic side, by Tim Ferriss, who's like 4-hour work week, and compared to Gary Vee, sprint till you bleed, hustle, hustle, hustle. You're crap unless you run at all times. Hustling in the taxi, hustling in front. Anyway. So it's like very different schools of thought going towards hopefully the same outcome that I'm seeing all these other guys go for. And it's interesting to watch how people take the path towards whatever they're going for. Where it's, Gary Keller's one thing, just one thing. If it doesn't have anything to do with the main event that you're going for or the main goal, don't even attempt it. And other people are like, just do it all, sprint all, something will stick on the wall, go, go, go. And so it's been a fascinating, I don't have the answer. I'm not trying to tell you guys what the answer is, but for me right now, what I'm trying to figure out is, okay, if I can't define a 10-year goal, can I define a 5-year? Like, what is that? And are the things that I'm doing and are the things that I'm building and what I'm putting, is it in supporting of that? The hustle is great. And I believe there's a time and season for every one of those schools of thought. I believe that there is the 4-hour work week style when you get, and you figured out the new opportunity and the charismatic leader and you figured out the cause. When you figured those things out, in my mind, it does become a little bit more 4-hour work week ish. Not that you can take the back seat or actually work 4 hours, but like it's all about, creating the systems and putting people in place and be able to step back and step out. Like, I get that. I think there's a time and a season for that. I also think there's a time and season for the hustle. I remember sleeping literally 3, 4, 5 hours a night, literally just about every single day of my entire college experience because I was studying marketing and launching businesses and trying to be successful. I was hustling my face off. I worked so hard. And then I'd go to marketing classes and people are like, oh, you know what you're talking about? I'd be like, man, you guys have not a clue. What we're learning right here is 15 years old. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, I love the hustle. And sometimes we can romanticize the hustle. And sometimes I see too many posts on Facebook of people saying, I'm doing my 3 a.m. hustle. I haven't slept tonight. I haven't slept great, but you're going to sleep the next 24 hours because you're going to be dead and totally rocked. You know what I mean? Like, whenever I see somebody say, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I worked a straight 46 hours. There are very specific times and seasons where that is needed. But I actually don't think it's something to brag about. In my mind, it means that you might be doing something wrong. Maybe you haven't delegated properly, or you did bad on your launch calendar and you didn't plan appropriately, or you know what I mean? I actually don't, whenever yeah, I've been hustling, doing X, Y, and Z, okay, because of what? Is it because of you truly have that many things to get done, or is it because you're trying to be busy because you're confusing that with achievement? Activity with achievement, it's not the same thing, And so I always laugh. Someone tagged, I think they were tagging me in the post. I can't remember. Regardless, I saw several in a row of people bragging about how they had not slept in a very, very long time. Read the book Rework. The book Rework talks about that very principle. It's dumb. You can't be creative when you're tired. Your brain, that part of your brain starts to shut down. It's like the most high maintenance part of your head. You're not going to be creative. You're not going to come up with a new opportunity. You're not going to come up with new copy. You're not going to be a very good analytical traffic driver if you're reading stats, or, you know what I mean? If you're tired, it rocks your world. I still only sleep 5-6 hours a night, usually it's 5, but man, it's taken a while for me to, anyway, all I'm trying to say is figure out if you're actually in love with the hustle, or are you using hustle to get the end goal? It's a very important distinction. And my hope is that you don't fall so in love with the hustle that you just keep doing it because you don't know what else to do. That's what Tim Ferriss talks about in the 4-hour work week. He's like, look, most of us work because we don't know what to do besides work. And I love work, and work is a sanctifying aspect to it, and there's so much personal development that comes from it. But man, it is not about straight hustle. The hustle sucks sometimes. It sucks a lot of times. And I'm trying to, I'm truly, for the first time in 5 years. For the first time in 5 years, I have been asking the question, so what? What is it for? How come I'm doing this? What's the farther end goal? What's the reason that I want to push forward on this? How come? And I'm not going to lie. That question has freaked me out, because Actually, Alex Sharfin talks about this in the Entrepreneurial Personality Type. If you guys don't know him, go check out Alex Sharfin. He is fantastic. He helped me learn more about myself than I knew about myself, and why I act the way I do, and why I can do these hustle periods, and why I can. And he talks about this very thing. He's like, look, if someone asks an entrepreneur what their 5-year goal is, their brains explode because they have no idea how to even think that far ahead. There's so much stuff that they've got going on. And that's how I feel. I don't know what the answer is. There's literally like those old TV sets when the channel wasn't on. It's like, shh, you know what I mean? Like there's just blank channel. I have no idea. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, no idea. And that can be a little bit freaky. And so I'm trying to get more clarity on what that actually is. And I'm challenging you to do the same and to take it serious and to know what the end game is. You know, are you trying to, you know, Are you falling in love with the hustle? That's basically the whole point of the whole episode I was trying to make with this whole thing, is that like, oh gosh, you got to have, you know, if you want to be really successful and stuff, like increase your volume in that activity, you will be successful. Have huge, ridiculous, unbalanced volume in whatever you're trying to be really good at or make money at or whatever it is, and you'll be successful. That's like the formula. Just obsess. You'll do well. Obsess. But know that it is a means to an end. You know, and the way you stay relevant, go back through these little tiny obsessing moments. You know, it's kind of like the way I learn now has changed dramatically. The way I learn, I actually have not read a full book in quite some time, years actually. And the reason why is because I realized that I was distracting myself with the activity of reading books rather than applying what the books were saying, right? And I realized that I needed to change my learning style. And I needed to start doing these little more mini learning sessions. And so when I first started, it was like this big gulp, like just taking in everything I can. I was reading all these courses, taking all these things in. And then eventually I needed to change my strategy because I was just not launching anything. I wasn't distracted. You know, I was way too distracted. It's the same thing with this, you know, with your goals and what you're actually going for. Like, I think at the beginning, it may not matter as much what that long-term goal is, but I'm really, really starting to ask the question, okay, what is the long-term goal? Does this activity have to do with that? Is it sustainable? Is there a reason I should be doing this, or should someone else be doing it for me that I hire out? Is it, you know, and those are all the kind of questions, and I can feel that I'm in a transitionary period, and it's important to be self-aware of where you are in that process. I'm not telling you not to hustle. Gosh, I'm going to hustle as long as I can. I mean, But I also know now it's a means to an end rather than this glorification thing, like this badge of honor. I haven't slept in 47 hours. Like, well, then you got a problem. There's another problem set that you're not addressing. And because of that, the side effect is happening. Like, go back, take a step back, figure out that problem set. Like, what's going on? How come you can't? You know, and, you know, anyway. That's all I got for you guys.
Thanks for listening to Sales Funnel Radio. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. Want to get one of today's best internet sales funnel for free? Go to salesfunnelbroker.com/free funnels to download your pre-built sales funnel today.